Okay, a few people wanted some details when I was in the middle of this build about the wiring. I said I would try to make a video to explain it a little better. Too much to try to go through and type in. So I installed a Warren 8,000 pound Evo full-size winch. I went synthetic rope because synthetic rope's quite a bit lighter. This is a deluxe bumper. I changed it, modified it. Even this bar has changed. I made a new bar, larger, wider, to match with this winch and mount my PIA lights on them. I just bought like a winch plate for a trailer and welded it in place, and then made my brackets and whatnot. The bumper's plated inside and out. I plated it across the center. Put some hookup mounts right here so that if I ever have to block and tackle it, probably never use them. So when I moved the controller off of here and moved it in there, the cables, of course, weren't long enough. So I had to remake the cables. So I have everything color-coded to match. I'm just kind of crazy that way. Call it OCD. But I used that old intake port that went through because I have that 3-inch TC snorkel. And that hole running through was a perfect place to run them cables straight down. I had to cut a little out of the bottom of the plastic mount of this controller down in here so that they would go straight down. But I just made a little aluminum diamond plate, TIG welded it, got some real cheap angle iron, and then TIG welded a plate to the top of it, and then screwed it into the plastic there on all four corners. So right here you can see where the cables run through. That's the controller wire that runs to a toggle switch in there. This is remote control, so I don't even really ever have to pull the hood to hook up this. Plus I got a switch on the dash. I'll never have to worry about it. So all the cables I bought, the cables from West Marine, they're all tinned, marine grade cables with marine grade eyelets that are tinned. I soldered the eyelets on and crimped them after they were soldered. That is the absolute best way to build your cables. I used to have to build them for electric golf carts. And then I wrapped them everything in the braid to help protect them. And what I did was, this is my secondary battery side. So this is actually cable is running over to my isolator to connect these two batteries through the isolator. Behind this, you can't see it, is a 4-auger cable that runs underneath through the old air intake as a chase and to the engine compartment and cuts over to my accessory battery. I'll show you that. So this is my accessory side. I went with a 4-auger because if you look it up, these are rated for 60 amps. A 4-auger wire in a 12-volt system is 60 amps. So that's why you run 4-auger. It's important to run the right size wire. That's where fires start and everything else. So be careful with that. Okay, so that's the powering up my main accessories. This is the negative side. I joined the negative secondary battery to the primary battery from here over to my negative bus bar for my key-on accessories and my primary battery. I went to the AGM 28. This is actually the old PC 925 that everybody used to put down in there where now my windshield washer is. So I have that, of course, grounded over here or to my negative post. That's the cable I made, and that's the factory harness to my negative there. That's my factory positive going to the starter solenoid, and then of course my power going to here, and then power going to this side. And I took the bus bar out of the middle so I could use these independently. So this is constant power on my key-on accessories. This is key-on, so it only powers up key-on. And the way I did that was I actually pulled all this apart and repinned it because I didn't want a bunch of butt connectors in there. So my main power comes in through this fuse. This is a 30 amp fuse for my Keyon accessories. It powers up this relay. The relay is triggered by the 10 amp accessory fuse in this panel, which is what powers up your accessory port underneath the dash, a little round like cigarette lighter. And I did that using the Honda sidebyside.com has an accessory plug that will plug in the harness and gives you a wire that comes out of it that's activated, of course, when your key's on. So that is my trigger wire, and then it energizes this blue wire, which energizes my Keyon accessory side of this bus bar that I separated. So that's all my Keyon accessories right there. One of them is my Dyno Jet wideband oxygen sensor kit, runs through it. All of them accessories on that have their own individual fuse links, in lines. It was just easier to do it that way because they all had their own harness. And all I did was shorten the factory harnesses for the windshield washer, for the blinkers, because they like to give you 10 foot of damn cable. And then I ran a NOCO onboard 2 amp battery charger and maintainer plugged in, which is this. If y'all don't know this, when this light is on, both your batteries are connected. So right now, both of them are being maintained at the same time. That only turns off when the voltage drops below a threshold to protect this battery. Then it will separate your secondary from your primary so that you can't drain this down but so far. And it'll be plenty to crank you up and operate and with no issues. That's the reason why you have to run one of these, because your winch draws more than your engine can produce. So that NOCO runs through the dash, and I have it here so that I can just plug in my extension cord. I don't have to mess with none of that. Just plug it in and keep everything maintained. My secondary batteries here, an Odyssey Group 24. Again, one of these cables runs directly to the winch controller to power the winch. It's a 2-AUG. One of them is a 4-AUG that runs all my accessories. And of course, a negative cable for each one of them. And then a third negative cable that I ran to the engine and grounded it to the engine block in the same place the factory harness grounds to, which is next to the starter. So I'm not only grounded to the engine here, I'm also up front connected by the negative between both batteries up there. So it's a loop. You want as much ground. You can never have too much ground on anything, especially when you're dealing with things like we are that are in a lot of water and mud and whatnot. So all the cables, again, I built from marine grade cable, tin cable, soldered and crimped connections, runs down through the factory intake tube. It's hard to see in here. It's getting dark on me because of the 3-inch snorkel. I also have the Red's off-road custom switch panel. Love this thing. He custom made that for me. And how I did it, instead of having the key to turn this on, I ran a master switch. You just touch the master switch on and boom, all your accessories are powered up. That voltmeter comes on when I touch that, so that way it is connected to the secondary battery and gives me its voltage. It also has USB ports in there, so I can charge USB items without having the key on. This gets powered up. My winch switch gets powered up as well at the same time. And the only thing that doesn't is my windshield washer, and this voltmeter is when the key comes on, and that is so I can monitor the voltage of the primary battery.